Hi, and welcome to another edition of Your Health with Dr. Christy. My name is Dr. Christy Reisinger, and today we will be talking about habits. As we move into another year, many of you, like me, will make goals for the new year and reflect back on good habits that you would like to continue and bad habits that you would like to stop. My husband encouraged me to read an intriguing book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I really enjoyed the book, and I thought I would share some good, timely takeaways as we think about our New Year's resolutions. The book is divided into 3 sections: habits with individuals, habits within companies, and habits within societies. And while they're all equally fascinating, we're going to focus on habits of individuals to see if there are any personal takeaways that can help transform your own habits. The book states that, quote, a paper published by a Duke University researcher in 2006 found that more than 40% of the actions people perform each day weren't actual decisions, but habits, end quote. And therefore, in light of how important habits are to our lives, can habits be changed? The book says yes, when we understand how they work. The framework for changing a habit includes identifying the routine, experimenting with rewards, isolating the cue, and having a plan. The book starts out by talking about a mass of cells deep inside the brain called the basal ganglia that scientists now know is responsible for developing habits. Initial studies in rats indicated that when a rat is introduced with the same maze with the same reward located in the same location, initially the brain has a flurry of activity, but as the rat becomes more and more familiar with the maze, the brain actually has less activity. But the internalization of how to navigate the maze was located in the basal ganglia. And as the book states, the basal ganglia stored habits even while the rest of the brain went to sleep. Habits emerge because the brain's constantly looking for ways to save effort. This allows us to perform complex tasks like backing the car out of our driveway while still having the mental capacity to think about other things like tasks that we need to do at work. The process within our brains to develop a habit is a 3-step loop. Number 1, there's a cue that tells the brain to go into automatic mode and which habit to use. Number 2, there's a routine, which can be physical, mental, or emotional. And number 3, there's a reward, which helps the brain figure out if this loop is worth remembering for the future. And the book argues that once you know how habits are formed, you have more control over them. Everyone's always looking for ways to make exercise a habit, and this book deconstructs the way to do so. They looked at a study from 2002 from researchers at New Mexico State University. This study included 266 people, most of whom worked out at least 3 times a week. And the reason they started their exercise routine varied and was often on a whim. But the reasons they continued exercising were because of specific rewards they started to crave. 92% said it made them feel good. 67% said they liked the sense of accomplishment that came along with tracking their performance. So the book recommends that if you want to start exercising, you need to choose a simple cue, such as lacing up your sneakers before breakfast, or in my case, putting out my workout clothes to put on in the morning, and then think about the clear reward that you will have upon completion of the workout. But the cue and reward aren't enough. You need to continue it long enough for your brain to start expecting the reward. The cue must trigger the routine, which then triggers the craving for the reward. That's how habits form. And as we move into 2021, weight loss is on the minds of many. Researchers affiliated with the National Weight Loss Registry looked at more than 6,000 people who've lost more than 30 pounds and have kept it off. 2 commonalities amongst them included 78% of them ate breakfast every morning, which helps to avoid snacking later in the day. And they also weigh themselves every day, which allows them to see how small changes can affect the scale and provide momentum to keep going. Successful dieters also envisioned a specific reward for sticking to their diet. such as pride when they stepped on the scale, or a bikini they wanted to wear, so that when temptations arose, the craving for the reward crowded out the craving for the food item not on their diet. The craving drove the habit loop. My husband told me the other day that he would like to buy a new Apple Watch when he hits a certain weight loss goal. He's setting his reward craving to help keep himself on track through the monotonous and difficult restriction days as he gets his eating habits back on track. So if you're looking to lose weight or start a new exercise habit in 2021, be sure that you set a specific and rewarding goal that will turn into a craving for that specific reward to help keep you on track. Because cravings are what drive habits, and remember that habits are a 3-step loop: the cue, the routine, and the reward. But how do you change bad habits? Unfortunately, bad habits are never truly extinguished. And to change a bad habit, you still use the 3-step loop of the cue, the routine, and the reward, but you change the routine that's triggered by the cue and deliver the same reward. The first step is identifying a behavior that you want to change. The next step is to experiment with rewards, and don't try to change any behavior at this point. Just try and collect data to see which reward will help eliminate the craving. For example, a smoker might try Nicorette gum, taking a walk, meditation, or prayer. Write down the emotion you're feeling after changing out the reward, and ask yourself 15 minutes after the new reward, do I still want to do the habit that I'm trying to avoid? If the answer is yes, then try another reward and continue the experiment for a few more days. After you have analyzed the reward, it's time to look more closely at your cue. Answering specific questions about the cues can be helpful. It's important to examine yourself and ask these questions about your cues. What are you doing when the cue occurs? What time of day is it? What's your emotional state? Who else is around? And what action is preceding the urge? Write down responses to these questions for a week, and you'll start to see patterns emerge. So you want to stop a destructive habit. The author of the book noticed that he would snack at work at about the same time every day. He wanted to change this habit, so he first analyzed the reward he was seeking with a snack. Was it simply to satisfy hunger? Or was he using the snack to interrupt boredom or to avoid working? And what about smokers? Are you smoking because you love nicotine? Or because it provides a burst of stimulation? Or because it provides relaxation? Once you've figured out your habit loop, the routine, the reward, and the cue triggering it, you're now ready to shift your behavior by having a plan. You'll say to yourself, when I see this cue, I will do this behavior in order to get this reward. And realize that failure is part of the process because it helps you to evaluate and analyze your cues and rewards further and adjust the new routine or behavior that you're using to replace the destructive habit. Did you know that smokers often quit and restart up to 7 times before quitting for good? Don't see these as failures, but as the book says, look at them as, quote, mini experiments. But another aspect of this change is belief that you can do it, which is often in the form of a supportive group of friends or community with people that have successfully kicked the habit you're trying to change. As the author states, quote, the evidence is clear. If you want to change a habit, you must find an alternative routine, and your odds of success go up dramatically when you commit to changing as part of a group. Belief is essential, and it grows out of a communal experience, even if that community is only as large as 2 people, end quote. In summary, this book is simply a framework for understanding how habits work. Each habit is so different that there will not be a one-size-fits-all solution. But I truly believe that if you understand the framework, you can make positive changes. And on a personal note, one habit that I started in 2020 that's been meaningful to me is reading the Bible in its entirety. And something that's helped me accomplish this goal is the Bible Recap podcast. If you're like me and often read the Bible and think, what in the world does that mean? Or if you're also like me and have tried to read the Bible in its entirety in the past, but I've gotten mired down in Leviticus, then the Bible recap is something you should consider. There's thoughtful commentary on every Bible reading, and the reading and commentary both take about 10 minutes each for a total of about 20 minutes a day. It's been life-changing for me. Go to thebiblerecap.com for details. Here's to a happy and healthy 2021. Thanks for joining me.